Day. So it's been 24 years since it has been recognized that aging infrastructure is a critical issue, and yet this current government still has to present a strategy, a main plan for driving modernization. What would you say the primary reason for that is?
The primary reason for not having a strategy?
Correct.
I don't know, it's perplexing, as I said earlier.
It is.
It was identified in 1999 by the government as a problem, aging infrastructure. We did an audit in 2010 that reiterated that. It is decades of chronic underfunding that has brought the government to such a place. I think that there needs to be better leadership globally to see a change here. There needs to be better information around exactly how many systems need to be modernized, how many are not needed anymore, but more importantly, looking at the funding mechanisms which are poorly suited for major IT projects. So there's lots of good recommendations for the government to work on.
Thank you. A theme, Auditor General, throughout your reports is not collecting data and not using data that has been collected. Why would you say this government isn't doing a better job of collecting and using data in an effort to provide better services for Canadians and provide them at better value for Canadians?
I guess I could use the inclusion in the Inclusive Public Service Report as an example. There for decades have been commitments around improving employment equity, and there's been a flurry of activity and really good things that have resulted in the public service really being representative of the Canadian population. But for decades we haven't been gathering as a government the information along racial lines and splitting up visible minorities into different categories. There are different lived experiences and there are different reasons and barriers. And so I think that it's an issue we see in something about inclusion. We see it in IT. We see it in so many other programs. I think everyone's on that cusp of really understanding that data is key and essential, and it's part of our job to point out when it could be used better to drive more meaningful change.
Excellent, thank you. And my final question is, in 2021, Auditor General, the Secretariat estimated that it would cost $496 million to modernize all of the applications, and yet in November 2022, a third party, an external third party, increased this amount to between 2.7 and $3.4 billion. So would you say we're able to quantify the cost of inaction and further delays by this government?
I think what that points out is that there really is some missing skills and capacity in being able to identify the real costs of such a large initiative. The three systems that we're talking about here that treat old age security, Canada Pension Plan, and the Employment Insurance Program have existed for 20 to 60 years. They're old. There is so much complexity from a policy perspective. There's a lot that needs to be factored into what modernizing and improving these systems looks like. I took some positive in that the government has taken external advice now, and they're looking at this. But what's even more concerning is they don't have a full picture of how much it will cost. There's 7,500 applications across the public service that have been identified as needing to be modernized, and the costs are underestimated at this time. So it's about having the better skill set to be able to estimate it, but then also adjusting funding mechanisms to deal with the fact that major IT projects are lengthy. And how is the funding going to be adaptable to deal with the increasing costs that are inevitable as you take time to